Guys, we just got some huge new Resident Evil 4 remake leaks, and I gotta admit, they're pretty interesting, so stick around because we're about to get straight into this. So the leaker starts off by saying that he has a friend who's been playtesting different builds of the game and telling him all about them ever since 2018, and that's the source that all these leaks came from. And then the leaker states that Leon will only encounter the Bella sisters one time in the whole game, and it will be in the mine area where they're being led by Dr. Salvador, and Leon will have to fight them. And besides this, there will be no mention of the Bella sisters in the entire rest of the game. And as for Dr. Salvador, he will be a recurring boss, although you only have to kill him a few times and the rest of the times will be optional. And each time you defeat him, he will mutate into a stronger form until you eventually have to fight his final form in the mine with the Bella sisters. And his final form will look very similar to Super Salvador from the original Resident Evil 4 Mercenaries mode. Next up, the leaker states that the Del Lago boss fight will play out exactly how it did in the original, except you will have a limited amount of harpoons. And next up, the leaker states that Mendez will be a stalker type enemy, but he won't appear a lot except for in his house, which has been heavily expanded upon. Mendez will chase the player throughout the house, and unlike any other Resident Evil stalker enemy, he will grab nearby Ganados and throw them at you while cursing at them and telling them to kill you. And the Mendez boss fight is extremely similar to the one from the original RE4. And before we go any further into the video, if you guys could please be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, it would be greatly appreciated because I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And now with that being said, let's get back to the video. Next up, the leaker states that there will only be 2 Garradors in the entire game, but instead of being killed, they will be knocked out every time you defeat them in each area of the castle, all the way up until the end of the castle segment of the game. Next up, the leaker states that the U3 has been completely redesigned, as well as how you deal with him. It'll be similar to the baby monster segment from Resident Evil Village, where the player must solve a small puzzle to escape a very dark and eerie area before moving on to a bigger space to battle the monster. And the area where this takes place has a ton of liquid nitrogen containers to slow down the U3. And then the leaker states that all El Gigantes except for the first one that you encounter have been cut from the game. The leaker proceeds to say that Krauser has gotten a full redesign where he will be wearing a full black sweater with tactical clothing, and the Regenerators and Iron Maidens have also gotten a slight redesign to make them look a lot scarier. And now, instead of just having the 2 variations, the Iron Maidens and Regenerators will each have 4 or 5 different variants, such as regular, long, obese, abnormal, and more. And each variation will have the parasites located in different spots, and unlike the original game, the Regenerators and Iron Maidens will not be killed unless all parasites have been eliminated. And the leaker also mentions that the Salazar boss fight will be very similar to the Moreau boss fight from Resident Evil Village, and during the boss fight, Leon will be located in a very large hallway with pillars, and Salazar himself will still be sheltered by his shell until the player defeats his left-hand Verdugo. And the leaker also notes that all Navistadors have been cut from the game. Next up, the leaker states that in the dungeon within the castle, the player must find a key to unlock the exit door. The dungeon will be pitch black, so the player will have to rely on their flashlight to look for clues, but at the same time, the player will be being chased by a new stalker type enemy with a hook. and using the flashlight at the stalker enemy will stun him for just enough time for the player to get away from him. And at the end of the segment, when Leon escapes the dungeon and locks the door, he admits that that even scared him a little bit. The leaker goes on to state that Lewis will help Leon and Ashley throughout several parts of the game before eventually mutating and becoming his own boss fight. Then the leaker states that the regenerators will have the ability to blob around like the oozes from Resident Evil Revelations, and this will be a boss fight encounter in the lab area. The leaker then says that you will play as Ashley in a segment where you will have Leon's handgun and you will be chased by a few cultist Ganados, and her gameplay mechanics will be quite different from Leon's, and when you aim at her there will be no reticle and her aim will not be very accurate. After this, the leaker states that when you fight mutated Dr. Salvador, he would have Frankensteined 2 chainsaws together to give them double the strength. Then the leaker states that Salazar will have a giant pet spider, which will be an optional boss fight. The leaker goes on to say that some Ada segments might be merged with the main game, but he's still pretty sure that they will have the Separate Ways campaign. And Leon is completely unaware of Ada still being alive until the two meet each other, although he is still aware of Wesker due to Chris and Claire telling him about him. And the laser room will indeed return, but it won't be as over the top as it was in the original. And lastly, the leaker states that Wesker will make an appearance in a helicopter with the Tricell logo on it, although he might be wearing a gas mask as to not reveal his face. And that's about all we got for today, so see ya. Well, there you have it, guys, the new Resident Evil 4 Remake leaks. If you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe because I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And now with that being said, I'll see you all on the next episode of